Feeling the Dantian. Dantian, Mingmen, sacrum, even the perineum, all part of the same region. You can think of it as a point with arrows radiating towards it. So it's pulling, not muscularly, but that's just its nature to draw into itself. Everything is pulling towards this point. This is the point from which you cohere. And then just bring the mind to the head point. This is like the opposite. This is a point that radiates like a sun. So you've got this darkness here, everything's being pulled into it like a black hole. And then you've got this sun here where everything is beaming out. And then we have the heart. The heart has the two components, the thymus, which is the upper heart, and eros, which is the lower heart. Feel the upper heart. That is like the ping pong ball buoyed up by the spout of water. So if you just dig your heels down and bring a bit of strength into the lower back, then you can get a thrust up here and feel as though your thymus is being buoyed up by the strength of your legs and your back. So it doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be something that's charging out and wanting to fight with the world. It's more a playfulness. It's the playfulness of a child. And then eros is just the deep heart, the real cavity of the chest that's just wanting to draw the world in and join with it, hug it, cuddle it. So that's riding horse, really. So the ward-offs in the arms comes from the deep heart. So we have to be careful that when we are in this posture, the upper heart doesn't start to wilt and droop. So I have to keep digging down with my heels, thrusting the thymus up while still drawing in the deep heart. Think of the thymus sort of belonging to the head. It's like it's with the head, and the lower heart, eros, is more with the dantian. And feel the part of the spine dropping down from the Ming Men. So now breathing, but from the legs and that part of the spine. So I bend the legs and try and draw the lower spine down into them. And that will lean me over, otherwise I'll fall backwards. And then I straighten the legs. We're trying to locate the hamstrings, activate the hamstrings. So as I sink, I'm actively pulling myself down. I'm not just releasing to gravity. I'm using these muscles to pull myself down, and then my lower back will be pulled into them. So as I pull myself down, my deep heart almost joins up with the dantian. And then here, as I breathe out and thrust up, it's like my upper heart joins with the head. Okay. And now feeling the draw downwards, splitting you into two. We want to feel ourselves as a left side and a right side that just happens to be held together in the spine, but very much two separate things that can act independently of each other a little bit and can play together. And it's the play between left and right that makes me move in the right way. So it's not my central controller telling the body what to do. It's the interaction of left and right. So now just doing that tree exercise. So going down into the roots, going up into the branches, and just really feeling the point where it splits. So I'm coming down the spine, and then there's this wriggle as it goes into each leg. And here I'm drawing energy from the ground. It comes back into the torso, and then again, there's a wriggle to get it to split down the arms just above the heart, and then back down. I twist a little bit to get it to break at the sacrum or the dantian, however you feel it. And then again here. Keeping the two sides separate. They're sort of doing the same thing, but they don't really want to do the same thing. So I'm always turning one side or the other. It's almost like my body really just wants to do the figure of eight exercise where we're doing alternate figures of eights. So that's sort of in there. That's trying to break out of this. An exercise it's a bit like a habit, but it's a habit that we practice to build the energy up to a certain intensity where something breaks out of that habit and something new happens. So you have to start somehow. You can't start off being creative. You have to just do something you've done before. Let it charge you up, and then something will burst out. Deep heart joining with the down chin to go down. And then this is the thymus, the upper heart joining with the head point to reach up. And now, same idea, but side to side. Deep heart as you come back to the front, and then upper heart as you turn to the side. What we want to look at and feel are the points of change where it reverses. So everything comes in here, and then as I pass the front, it starts to come out. So that's really the attack. The attack is really the end of the yield, the inevitability of it switching. And then the yield is really this point here where it starts to pull in. The extreme of turned, and then the extreme of back to the front, riding horse and out. So this is really coming into the deep heart, and then it just can't go any further. So the upper heart has to start popping out of that. This is the extreme of upper heart, can't go any further. So the lower heart starts sucking in. Feel that point, the point of change, the intensity that's required to effectuate the change, the reversal. This is the leg pushing, straightening along with the arm, and then this is the two beginning to bend. So that point where the straight starts to bend, that's the yield. Okay. Again, Dan Qian, this drawing black hole, the head, which is radiating, upper heart, which is similar to the head, lower heart, which is similar to the Dan Qian. So when we talk about the heart, it's really the middle between the upper and the lower. You know, exactly where you'd think it would be, so here. This is the deep heart, and this is thymus here. Okay, now let's try the reaching one. Starts off quite modest. And then just go a little bit further out. What we want to do is feel the shoulder blade coming into it. If I'm just sort of reaching for something that's, you know, beside me on the table, my hand would just go out and pick it up. I don't need to make a special effort. But if the thing is further away, or if I know it's going to require more strength to lift than I actually have in my arm, then I will need to bring my shoulder into it. I'll need to get it from my whole body, from my spine. So we reach, and then the shoulder comes out, and then I can draw it in. So I reach, and then the shoulder comes away from the spine and down into the arm. So first of all, it's my hand moving out, and then it's my shoulder coming away from the spine down into the hand. We want to feel just how different these two things are. So when I'm reaching for something that's within reach, then it's polite. You know, you just like you're taking the salt on the dinner table. But when you reach further and get your whole body involved, it's more like an animal. And that's basically how we want to be in Tai Chi, because really that's ward off. So I reach forwards, and then something different has to happen to allow my shoulder blade to become involved. So out with the hand, and then the shoulder comes in. And just feel how important it is to stay sunk. Because when you bring the shoulder in, it tends to bring you up. And we don't want that to happen. We want the shoulder to release from the spine without compromising your root. So 1 and 2. So you're polite, and then you're impassioned. 1, 2, 1, 2. What I want to feel is what I have to do with my spirit. to get the shoulder blade involved. I have to become quite different. So as you release the shoulder blade to get further extension, it's very much releasing in order to return. So this sense of coming around like this. So I release, and if I just continue turning this way, it will bring it back. It will start the return. 1, 2. Bring it back. So when I first moved to Israel, Ronnie was sort of driving me around to visit her friends. And there was one guy who lived in a kibbutz just a bit north of here. And he told me this story about his father. And his father had been in Auschwitz. His whole family had been wiped out. He was the sole survivor, came to Israel. And he said he was really quiet and polite. And they were sitting down at the dinner table one day when this friend of Ronnie's was a kid. And a distant cousin that had lived in America had come to visit them, and she was talking to them. And she suddenly mentioned his brother, who he just knew to be dead. But in fact, he was alive in America, and this brother was very close to him. And this friend of Ronnie said he just, as it dawned on him that his brother was still alive, he, from being the very polite host, he suddenly just started howling and just reaching for handfuls of food and just cramming them into his mouth, because it just sent him back. It sent him back to the camp. And he said it was just striking, just the change. So in a sense, that's what we're sort of looking for, the ability to stop being the polite, satisfied person that's just dabbling and dabbing to something that's really animalistic. And that is ward off. We tend to think of ward off as being this sort of polite drawing in, but really you're reaching out to bring something in and consume it. That's the feeling. So now let's just try that exercise again, but now without the dabbing. So as soon as I start turning, it's coming from my spine. So it's like an animal that's prowling. You know, when an animal's prowling, it's everything is coming from its spine as it's moving its arms like this. And it just means that it's just really ready. It's not careless. It's listening to everything. That's what we want. So I reach forwards, but not in two stages, not one and then the shoulder, but from the shoulder to start with. So I turn and I have to really just get this release from my spine. I'm releasing across the shoulder and down, and then I can draw it in, and again, releasing, drawing it in, releasing, drawing it in. I always think of, the Tom Hardy character in that film Warrior from 2011, where he plays the MMA fighter, and he's just got so much muscle on him, and he's really sort of inarticulate. Is all he can do really is just fight, but everything comes from his spine. And then try and feel it in the leg as well. So as soon as I start turning and release the shoulder blade from my spine, I want the similar sense that I've released my hip bone from the sacrum. So my hip sort of comes up, it sort of rolls the same way that the shoulder blade does. The hip's much more difficult, but it's there. The sacroiliac isn't really a proper joint, and so, but you can feel it. It feels like it starts in the hip, in the leg first. So, whoa. Something in you has to get really quite fierce to allow it to happen. So you're hunting, you're prowling. You're ready to make a kill and ready to consume. So this is all lower heart. It's really interesting. So the upper heart is like that sort of male bravado type aggression. You remember in that, in the Tom Hardy film, when he's won a fight, he just exits the cage immediately. He doesn't run around cheering. So he's not boasting, no upper heart whatsoever. It's all his back. Feel it returning. I reach out, but if I continued turning this way, it would come back. I'm only reaching out in order to bring something in. So that idea of a return has to be there from the very beginning of the reaching out. it's like you have to remain on really high alert all the time. As soon as you start thinking about yourself, the energy will just fizzle out. And then you are just going through the motions. This is how we'd like the form to be. It's an exercise in listening. Okay, so let's just bring it back. So that's very much legs, dantian, lower heart, all combined in the action. The upper heart doesn't really come into that. Is that the energy of the prowling wrestler that wants to get close so he can draw the person in and crush them? It's the opposite of the boxer who's keeping out of range of the other person, but because of his understanding of territory and his ability to extend, he can just fire these missiles out. So the wrestler would be, more like Mike Tyson, who just didn't have the height to jab. So he just relied on getting really close. He just relied on hooks and uppercuts. It was like his arms never really straightened. Neither his legs. You see him, he's just so sunk. And now let's just try straightening and bending the leg. Just the right leg. I straighten it and turn myself here. And then I bend it. And then I straighten it again, but now turn myself this side. So now it's a front foot. And then I bend it. Straight. Feel how this projects you up into the upper half. This sucks that back in. And then when I straighten here, it really dips down and back up into the middle. Upper heart, middle of the heart, lower heart, middle. Really straighten the leg. That's what's difficult about this exercise. And just really feel as though the other leg is supporting all of your weight. And it's especially difficult here. We're not used to really getting all of our weight in a back foot and just really sinking. You have to make sure this knee doesn't collapse in, otherwise it will hurt. So this is difficult. You want to feel the straightening of the front leg coming up and projecting into this arm. So even though this leg is pushing my hips backwards, I want to sense it forwards with my shoulder. So I have to lean forwards a little bit. So what it is in the form, it's just single whip here. So just changing from single whip into lifting hands. So this is the open posture because it's really pulled open at the chest. And then I turn and use that front leg. Remember, it's on the heel. And now I've got the closed posture. Straight, bent, straight, bent. So when you're in here, just feel how, unless you get this leg really straight, so straight it looks like it's bending backwards at the knee, you cannot get 100% in that back leg. Some of it will still be stored in the straight leg because it's not quite straight enough. It's actually really difficult because we never really straighten the legs in Tai Chi. They never really empty properly. So here I can really settle back and just straighten that front leg. Because the legs are sort of working all the time, we're sort of sinking. We tend to hold on to them all the time. We want to just be able to release the leg and just allow it to straighten. And now let's just squat. For me, there's three pains that we need to look for, not just get accustomed to, but actually search for. There's the pain of using the muscle. So like sinking, using the quads to hold yourself up, or using the hamstrings to pull yourself down. So we're well aware of the pain in the legs, and it has a certain quality. But now we'd also like to investigate and search out the pain of stretching a muscle. So the pain that yoga people would be accustomed to. So now just bring yourself onto your toes, and then just extend a foot out. And just straighten the leg. So you have to apply pressure onto the leg, because it won't straighten by itself, because it's not something that we're used to with Tai Chi. We've been doing Tai Chi so long now. So I want to feel this could almost bend so much that the whole leg would just touch the floor. So all of that holding on to keep strength in the leg in order to hold yourself up and pull yourself down has to be released now, so that the leg can just open out and stretch to its fullest, the hamstring. And then moving across. And then one more this side. And now this calf is actually touching the floor. It was nowhere near when I started. So now the body responds to stretching really quickly. Just have to push through the pain. And then one more the other side. And then just back to the middle. So unless we can really straighten the leg, we'd like it to straighten naturally rather than because we've brought tension into the quad. Unless the leg can stretch straight, it's never quite empty. So even when you lift the leg off the floor, so you've ostensibly got 100% of your weight in the other leg, you're still holding on in the leg that's come up. And then back up. So the three pains, so the pain of riding horse, that sort of depressing pain in the legs. So you really have to sort of just buoy up the heart just to keep yourself in good humor. And the pain of straightening the legs, which is a completely different pain. Then what I call the pain of visceral manipulation. I came across it, you know, when sort of massaging people. So when you massage into the gut, into the soft abdomen, then it's really painful, but it's a very different pain. It's like you're getting into places that you just don't want to go to. It's difficult to do it on your own. It's best to get someone else. Being able to really push into the gut and sort of go almost all the way through to the spine. So the intestine will sort of make way for you. And if you feel a tender part, you just be gentle with it. And you can go underneath the ribs, dig in and then cut under to get into the spleen this side and the liver the other side. And then going into the cup of the hip and just really prodding and just feeling the organs, getting some familiarity with your own viscera, with the inside of your body, as well as these external limbs and this torso. And it sort of wakes you up in a certain way. All of these pains wake you up in a certain way, but a different way, each one. And straightening the legs and this one here get especially important as we get older. As you get older, you lose the ability to actually get your leg really straight. I find it really difficult now. And then this one in the gut. This is, we sort of store a lot of shit here, literally. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to come out that's getting stale and stagnant emotionally, and just getting someone to just dig in there, just lie on your back on the floor, and then they can really just rub in with their fists or a couple of knuckles And you can feel the aorta. So if you just press in at your navel, you can feel your own pulse. And let's just do some of the figure of 8 exercise. With the same sense of it coming from the spine and from the sacrum. So the legs springing out of the sacrum. So my hip bone is very much part of each leg. I have my arms springing out of the spine between the shoulder blades. So my shoulder blades very much part of the arms. But we want a sense that we have these two limbs coming out of the occiput, where your spine actually gets into the skull, associated with the eyes and the ears. So this sense that something is coming out of there, and figure of 8ing as well. You're reticent. Your mind is quiet, but your energy is really working. It's very much like an animal. So Heidegger had that saying, language is the house of being. We want to get to prior. Before that, for us, very much not. When you get into language, you've already got into bad habit. You're no longer listening, basically. If you're speaking, even if it's only to yourself in your head, you're no longer listening. And so you're not ready. like a caterwauling tomcat that's moving really slowly. I once watched two toms facing off, you know, the way they sort of howl and everything is really slow. And then suddenly something happened and they just both, one of them ran away and the other one, it took it like 5 minutes just to sort of just relax and come back to normality, by which time it was just totally shattered, you could tell. So when you're really listening, it's as though every muscle in your body is tense, a little bit toned, primed, ready to respond. And then just back to riding horse one last time. Feeling this area. So mind in Danshan, it really just means bring everything together here. And then just feel the head, the real brightness, especially beaming upwards. Feel the upper heart reaching to the head, feel the lower heart reaching down to the belly. So the heart is very much a composite, very much two parts. And now let's bring the feet up and just a little bit of this one. That same feeling of really slow prowling. And then let it subside. a sense that it never stops. Feel the front of the foot and the back of the foot. Back of the foot very much with the danshan, the lower heart. Front of the foot very much with the thymus and the head. You've got this figure of 8 inside the foot. You've got a figure of 8 like this inside this foot, like sort of flat on the ground, but there's also one on the sort of vertical plane. So down the back of the heel, up into the instep, over the toes and down. Okay, good.